Welcome to another episode of the Me and Money podcast. We're going to shake things up a little bit here today. I know a lot of the times we just talk about a specific topic, but Elliott had this great idea to do some would you rather questions. And
I can't claim full credit here, Matt. I can't even say it. Chat GPT helped me out with these.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was a great idea. So we're going to play a little rapid fire, maybe not so rapid, because I'm sure we could probably talk about each of these questions for a bit, and we'll do our best to tie in some financial concepts to our answers. So, Elliott, I'm going to kick things off. I mean, this one's kind of weird because we're closing in on 40 rapidly, but would you rather be 40 years old with $500,000 or 65 with $5 million?
And I think the question is, do you have to retire, right?
I don't know if that was part of this one. But
okay. I think I'm taking the 5 at 65. So I think about the 500 at 40 and sort of in the concept of retiring. I know I can't be financially set off $500,000. Like, could I make it work? Probably. But life's not going to be what I want it to be at that point. Whereas let's assume I make it to 65, which is a big assumption in this. You know, we don't know what sort of time we're promised here. And I think that speaks to the heart of the question. But I do know 5 million at 65, I could live more than the life that I'd want at that point. So it's really just sort of enjoying life until that point is sort of the way that I'd interpret that question.
Yeah, I guess we should have talked about this before, but is this just like what we have, or is this assuming like we still have all the things we have now, but maybe the rest of our net worth is reset to 500,000? Would that change your answer at all? If you still had like a house and your income and everything like that?
I don't think so. And
No?
I'm not exactly sure. I just feel like 40 is not that far away. And I don't know. It just seems like, okay, I'll keep working and doing the things that I love doing and then wait till 65 to do it because that's sort of the intention anyway. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. Well, the way my head went immediately was, okay, Elliott values 25 years of his life at $4.5 million. That's where my brain went.
Okay.
So I don't know. I think I'd actually rather just take the $500,000. The 25 years of life is a lot of time. That's like, it's like a little bit more than I've already lived. So, I don't know. I think I would take the $500,000. I mean, you can still invest and, get a pretty good rate of return for the next 25 years. And you're not going to be at $5 million in most cases, but, you're still in a pretty good position financially at 65. So I don't know. That's probably where I would go. I don't know if I'd want to give up like those middle 20 years of life for $4.5 million. I feel like that's
what are you doing with those middle 20 years then?
I mean, raising the kids. I don't know. There's a lot of things that you just can't do when you're 65. I don't know. That's just how I think about it.
Okay.
You can always make more money too. I don't know. Like if it was $5 million today, like sure, but I don't know.
Yeah. I'm curious. I wanted to run a calculation, and maybe this isn't the right time to do it, but I wanted to see what's the rate of return between those two values.
I don't know,
it's
but
25 years, right?
Yeah, so 25 years, and it would have to double 1, 2, 3, 3.5 times. So 72.
Okay, so it's roughly a 10% rate of return.
It's that low? I was going to say more like 15.
If I did my math right, which who knows if I did, but I think I did.
It's really only 10? I guess 10 would be you'd double every 7 years, right? Ish.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you'd be pretty close.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I would take the $500,000.
Yeah. I mean, doing the math then, the 500,000 doesn't sound so bad, but I think I still like the guarantee of the 5. But I'm also one of those people who like the guarantees of life with certain things. So if you told me, hey, 5 million at 65, it doesn't really matter what I do between now and then.
Well, yeah, but how much is guarantee of living too far past 65 these days.
I'm gonna hope for the best there.
No, it's interesting. Yeah, it, and we'd love to hear what you listeners think. Like, feel free to comment below on this one or any of the other questions that we're going to do. So the next one,
and wait, real quick, if you do
yeah,
comment, please tell us why. I'd be really curious. This is the part of finance that I'm always fascinated by. Like, Matt and I clearly have a difference of opinion here on what we do because of our different values and how we think about that. And I'm curious how you'd approach this and how you came to your answer.
Elliott is the prepayer, right? And Elliott could also use the 10% on $5 million is $500,000 in the first year. I'm surprised you didn't throw that at me. But
no.
The next question would be, would you rather have $1 million now or $100,000 for life?
Is the 100,000, does that get a cost of living adjustment?
Don't think ChatGPT gave us that prerequisite, but just to make it a little more interesting, we'll say no.
Say no. I am torn. My gut said $100,000 for life because, again, I sort of like the guarantees with all that. But I'd probably be wealthier if I chose the 1 million, would be my guess.
You'd probably tell me more about that.
I just feel like if I had $1 million, like, I'm thinking about my relative age. If I don't get a cost of living adjustment, and by the time I'm 70 and I'm getting $100,000, it's, maybe it's worth $60,000 at that point or something like that. Whereas I think with the million, I have a better chance of keeping up with the cost of living and everything like that. So I guess I've convinced myself back to the million, even though my gut said $100,000.
Well, but at $1 million, right? If you wanted to sustainably grow that money, right? Let's just use the 4% rule, right? You're only going to be able to take about $40,000 a year off of that. Is that going to be enough?
Well, I think when we approach that study and we go out 30 years, most of the time you have significantly more money if you're using the 4% rule.
Sure.
So one could argue I could spend more than that and that would compound on each other and whatnot. So I think I'm going to go with the million, even though my gut initially said 100,000 as I talked through that a little bit more. I'm going with the million because I think the 100,000, again, it's not going to keep up with inflation as much. So I'm going to have to save a bunch of that, which maybe that works out okay, but that's 10 years worth of the million to then get to $1 million. And even then, what is that equal to? So although I like the guarantees of $100,000, and I remember like the 1,000 week for life or whatever the lotto is when that came out, like that was super exciting for people. There's something to be said for that money today and control over that and the flexibility it provides. So $1 million, final answer. You?
All right. You're locked in. See, I thought when you were going to ask a question, I thought you were going to ask, is it tax free or not? Like,
I'm going to assume it's tax free. Yeah, 100, just $1 million shows up one day. It's not getting taxed.
Yeah. So I would actually go with the 100,000. I think again, I like just my background, like where I come from, like the thought of having $100,000 a year was like insane. So I think I could do a pretty reasonable job I'd probably continue to work at that point, but maybe living off of 60, 70 of that and investing the rest to help kind of give my own little cost of living boost there.
How'd you choose that percentage? Saving versus investing, like the 60 to 70 spend and 30 or so.
I was just thinking like reasonably, like I think you can accomplish more of your core living expenses, like, and not be suffering on $60,000 or $70,000 a year. Like, sure, it's not going to get you far in terms of like vacations or extra spending, right? But I think like your essentials would mostly be covered at that rate of spending in a given year, like $5,000-6,000 a month.
Okay.
It's not like going to be a $700,000 house and vacations all the time. Probably not going out to eat a ton, but I feel like that'd give you so much, like just having $5,000 or $6,000 a month where you don't have to worry about where it's coming from. Like, I'd take that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Invest the rest, keep it growing along the side.
I hear that. As I'm thinking this through, I'm curious what our spouses would pick. Maybe that needs to be a future episode, or we need to get
Oh,
their answers.
that'd be fun. And then we can take the day off. We can go get coffee and they can just sit here and record.
Yeah, I don't think they'd like that, but I'd be curious.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That was a good one. The last one for today, and we're gonna do a couple episodes of these because there were a lot of good questions, but we want to keep the time nice and digestible here. Elliott, would you rather have a $250,000 a year salary in a job you hate, or a $60,000 a year salary in a job you love? I'm gonna jump on this one first because I just said right that I could probably make $60,000 or $70,000 go a pretty decent way. So I'd probably choose the 60,000. Having a job you hate sucks.
Yeah. Were you quick to decide that? Like, did you know that instantly?
Yeah, it was pretty easy. I mean, I feel like, and I'm definitely biased. Again, I think partially due to my upbringing, but also the fact that when we both started our businesses, we were making far less than $60,000 in those first years. Now, obviously, I know this is a for life situation, right? So it's a little bit different, but yeah, I don't know. I think being miserable for 40 hours a week or more potentially at that salary level doesn't sound too appealing, unless I was going to go the fire route, but I'm not a big fan of the fire movement. Like,
fair enough.
I like concepts and aspects of it, but not work any job you can to pool up as much money as you can as fast as you can.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm going to take the opposite approach, but maybe I'm doing this question wrong. I think I would take the higher paying job at 250 that I hate for a little while and then figure out how to take a different job that hopefully pays more than 60 grand that I could transition to at some point. I'm going to go with that just because I think in today's world, 60 grand would be harder to live on with just the cost of inflation and everything that's gone up over time. Like, you could make it work, but it wouldn't be pleasant. And I know myself that I think it would be hard to live off of 60 grand per year.
Well, see, I was still factoring in that it would just be my salary, not necessarily my household salary. I wouldn't expect Allison to go make the difference, right? But sure. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, in that situation where I was thinking more like you have to pick a lane and choose it
forever.
But yeah, I mean, otherwise I'd probably go your approach, right? Like, in a nutshell, that's kind of what we both had to do, right? Before we started our firms. Like, maybe we didn't hate those jobs, but it was definitely a subpar situation.
Yeah.
And that's why we left. But no, I think it's a really good thing to think about, like, as you go through your career, though. A lot of times promotions are exciting and the pay boost is nice, but eventually I think they just turn into more responsibility or headaches or stress than people really want. And I think we do lose a lot of that marginal utility of the dollars, like as you start to crawl up that income ladder.
Yeah, I think if you'd boosted that 60,000 a little bit, I may have leaned that way. Because I think you see this a lot, particularly in tech, is people get that higher paying job, work it for a while, but then get burned out and want to do something else, and then do take the lower paying job. And that's kind of what I envisioned as I read this question.
Yeah. Oh yeah. At what level would it become a no-brainer for you?
I don't know about no-brainer, but I feel like somewhere between maybe $80,000 and $100,000, then it starts to become, hey, I might do that instead of the other thing. Because it's, I don't know, 250 is what, a little more than 4 times the 60. So you work 1 year versus 4 years. That's kind of how I was looking at that in my mind. Whereas if you close the gap to 2 years, like that's okay. I don't know where I get those numbers from, but it's just sort of my gut reaction when I hear it.
Yeah. I mean, I think 60 would definitely be a stretch. Like, I just would hate doing something I hate for a long time.
Yeah, but, and I don't envision a long time for me.
I'd much rather the 60,000 be 100,000. That's for sure. Sure.
Yeah.
It's really funny too, like with these being from Chat GPT, I wonder like how it came up with those numbers. I have so many questions. Like what does it think $60,000 is feasible in today's economy? I don't know.
Which it is. I mean, there's plenty of people who make that and less
Yeah.
and work for it. I just know for myself that would be a hard situation.
Yeah. That's fair. Well, this was fun. Yeah, again, we'd love to hear all of your answers for those of you listening to those questions. And like Elliot said, be sure to list why, and we'll throw a few more your way in the next episode.
Yeah, and if you have questions, throw them down in the comments down below, and maybe we'll answer that on a future podcast.
Yeah. All right, Elliot. It was good to see you.
Likewise.